time, there are some things that we're doing in many of your neighborhoods that are really strategic interventions. There are small pedestrian overlays. We're doing parking overlays where we have enabling ordinance we talked to you about a few months ago that can make for more stringent parking standards in certain neighborhoods. In other areas that may be transit rich, you can look at different parking alternatives like van pools and other types of transportation mitigation that you can utilize. But it's really looking at LA's parking standards and making sure they're not one size fits all. You can really cater them to your community. And so we have many ordinances like that have gone through the process that we're actually able to implement in communities, and working with the council and working with the neighborhood councils, trying to find the areas where we do have resources available that are small strategic interventions, not an updated entire community, but looking at certain boulevards. What is the pedestrian overlay we can do there? Is there a streetscape plan we can provide to make sure that the commercial activity there is vibrant? So even though our community plan program is very expensive and it takes a long time to get adopted, there are things that our planners are doing in your neighborhoods that are small strategic interventions that can really make a big difference. And I always point to my planners. Some of our most successful areas actually have had us stay out of them. Larchmont Boulevard, we went into Larchmont, we added a few conditions to preserve the character of Larchmont. Melrose, on the other hand, is a very successful retail center, and we did nothing in Melrose. And so sometimes the best thing the planning department can do is not regulate an area, let it organically grow, let the neighbors say what they want, the retailers will respond. In some cases, we need to jump in before the big box retailers take over an area and put in certain types of conditions, but many times so I'm always careful with my planners that we don't jump in too soon and we don't actually create a problem by trying to solve one or create a problem where there currently isn't one. So having said that, I'm available to answer any questions, and I'll be back before you many times, and our planners will also be here. So Len, I'll let you take that one.
Well, I've got 3 cards to start with, and then we get to everybody else. Jeff Jacoberger, you don't have to fill out a card. I just got 3 cards, and then we'll start calling people. Jeff?
A couple comments and questions. One is thank you for sort of talking about the extended period of time for us to act. I think just to those of us from neighborhood councils in the room, though, then the obligation is on us to actually not just ask for more time, but then to actually provide comment about the substance of what those policies are, because otherwise they're just going to say, why did we do this?
Great point.
Couple questions. One is, often when we as a community reach an agreement with the developer about we want conditions, often they're for infrastructure providing conditions, but we get the city attorney going, oh, it's not directly related to a measurable impact of the project, so they can't be imposed as conditions. And is there a way around that? And then the second thing is, can you just talk a little bit about how we as neighborhood councils can be more effective? I know I've had conversations with people in the planning department, and they're very clear, like the more specific comments we give them to the zoning administrators or planners, the better they're able to take them on. But if you could talk a little bit about how we can provide effective input to you guys.
Great questions, Jeff. In terms of your first question, part of the issue for us is really going back to how do we actually utilize some of that input. I guess it was your second question, I'll turn backwards. In order to have effective communication, I think the best thing to do is really look at what we're looking at. So when it's a zoning administrator case for an overnight fence, we're looking at the findings we're required to make. We're also looking at what the neighborhood character is like. So for people, many neighborhood groups will say, okay, these fences here that the applicant's showing you are actually illegal fences, aren't permitted. These other ones have been legally and they were approved for X or Y reasons, but giving us that context as a planner from our desk, from a site visit, my staff may not have, is very important. It also is helpful too, sometimes we get some neighborhood groups, but they've gotten a lot more sophisticated through their plum committees, where they just say, we oppose this project. What is it about it you oppose? Is it maybe a fresh and easy, we don't like the fact they sell alcohol? Okay, now we're narrowing it down. We don't like the fact that they have serve alcohol without attendance because they can serve minors. Now we've really whittled it down. Or we don't like the fact that parking's in the front of the store rather than the back. We want to be more pedestrian friendly. So like you said, the more specific you can get on your conditions or on things that you feel the project can improve, reasons you don't like it, reasons you do like it, the things that you think that they could do differently, those are always helpful. Your first question was really about how do you get conditions that an applicant works with you on incorporating the city's documents. We were audited 2 years ago by the city controller, Wendy Gruhl, on that issue. And basically they said, they were criticizing us for utilizing volunteered conditions, they call them. So an applicant will agree to you, maybe it's a nightclub, and they say, we're gonna close by midnight, and then we're gonna go through and pick up all the trash in the neighborhood. That one we can actually impose because it's a CEQA issue, but let me think of a different example. You're working with a developer and they said, we're gonna go ahead and landscape this median over here to help beautify it, since we're gonna put this condo project across the street. The city doesn't have a regulation that requires a developer to landscape the city facility, which is the median. So as you negotiate that, they agree to it, and they say, okay, let's put it in the decision letter. Our city attorneys come back and say, no, you're not gonna put that in the decision letter. That's a private party agreement between the applicant and that neighborhood group, but the city can't enforce that because we don't have a strong enough nexus, a legal basis to require that condition. Sometimes through our environmental laws, there is a nexus. If you ask the decision maker, we'll go in that direction, but our city attorneys have been very conservative because when it comes back 5 years later, the developer doesn't do it, and you come to us and say, we want that enforced, they have to be able to make sure they can defend that in court, and they feel like some of those conditions they can't. So what I usually tell neighborhood groups or individuals who are doing that negotiation is enter into a binding private party agreement. The hard part is you usually have to have an attorney help you with that, and that can be expensive in itself with your limited budgets. Or require the developer to do that, to where you have a binding third-party agreement where there could be private action taken if they don't come up on their end. Because when you put them in a city document, if it's a volunteered condition, it's really only as good as the person volunteering that. And in some cases, that can be, if they're going to stay in the community a long time, that can be very easily happen. In other cases, which is commonly when we don't see projects being built, or they're flipped, the person who advises like, I didn't agree to that. Well, how do you hold them to it? So I think really having that private party agreement as strong as it can be, and then challenge a little bit with the decision maker and say, well, is this really something you can't attach to a city document? Isn't there a nexus between the infrastructure and our median? And sometimes we can get crafty and creative and actually put it in the form of law. It's just, it really depends individually.
Mark, Elliot?
Good morning, Mr. LoGrande. I've been following neighborhood councils for many years. I focus on land use issues, so I look across the councils and see where these kind of innovations are happening. Some communities like Venice, for example, they've always been kind of ahead of the curve looking to trade off good design for maybe a little bit of height, finding what's going to be constructive, what's going to handle the community. Other communities like Silver Lake try and pull from developers some really innovative amenities like a community garden. Can you help us provide a community garden? In Woodland Hills, they're working on this large proposal of Costco, trying to bring pedestrian-oriented principles to it. So kind of on a big scale, there's a lot of innovation there. And so I just mentioned that because you talk about the planning department doing these things and then trying to find some local funding to help your initiatives. Just to turn it around, what about the communities that are undertaking, say, this kind of do-it-yourself update to their community plan because that program stalled a bit? To bring a little bit of, to reduce a little bit of uncertainty about for folks who are working, doing these things, for a community that wants to move forward on their own do-it-yourself community plan update, how will the department work with them? What can they do? They're doing this in Palms, Mar Vista right now. So for communities that want to undertake their own planning processes, what's the opportunity with the department?
Yeah, we've had a lot of that actually in the past too, where a community group might focus on a certain boulevard or a certain part of their neighborhood and come up with some ideas. And I think that's great. I mean, we really encourage that. The extent though that they come up with zoning regulations is really difficult. Most community groups aren't really prepared to undertake that. Some of them that are, we really encourage them to engage us early, to also work with the council office and get a motion on the table to basically have us help them study that. In terms of funding, we can be pretty creative. There's usually some type of institutional money, or in many cases we've been very successful in the last few years getting grants and money from the federal government as well as the state from different healthy neighborhood initiatives that we can actually kind of earmark and work with community groups on trying to get some funding to do some studies. And we also have a great